Thanks for being here. I'm Joan, and I hope that you guys had a good holiday season. I definitely did. I am going to be starting off by showing my Christmas haul. I decided to be a little more specific when it comes to what I want for Christmas. And also, I usually feel pretty bad whenever I'm gifted books that I don't really have any want or intention of reading. Look at this cover. Is that not like it's okay, I don't know why. It just kind of gives me like the feeling of like a you're stuck in the wilderness. I don't know. I saw the cover to this one and I just want to read it. So now that I actually have it, thank you, Mom. I'm so excited. I also got two Joan Didion books who I've been interested in reading, which I'm going to admit I know nothing about. And then the White Album, which I did see at my bookstore and wanted to get, but added to my list. Thank you. And then I also got The Trio by Johanna Hedman. And this one, it's about like this guy recounting like the college days with two other people who I think are okay, so it's like there's three people, two of them are a couple, and their daughter comes to talk to him about their lives when they were all friends. And I'm just really interested to see like what their dynamic is and what he has to say. I don't know. And the cover really got me too. Like I like a good cover and I will buy a book just because of it. And I hate it. I also got Exhalation by Ted Chiang. I've just heard really 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 good things about this. It's 9 short stories and I don't really know a lot about it. Again, I'm going to trust the masses on this one. And lastly, I got Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth. And this one is about like an obsessive, all consuming infatuation. And it's sapphic in a conservative community. I just can't keep saying it. You guys know. Look at it. Just use your eyes. Also, I know in my last video, my glasses were so crooked, but I just want you to know that I have them like raised because if I just look at you, this is all that you're going to see, and that's really irritating. So you're welcome. Okay, and now getting into the favorite books portion. This list is definitely shorter than I thought it was going to be. I did like a lot of books in 2025, but I really consider these ones to be like the standouts of those. With these ones, it's like while I was reading them, I was just overwhelmed with the fact that this is like one of the best things I've ever read. These also aren't in any particular order. I like all of these books for a variety of reasons, and they're all really different from one another. So keep that in mind. But we're going to go ahead and start with Bad Bad Girl by Gish Jen, which I learned that I said wrong after I already did my video, which is my bad, and I'm very sorry. But I saw an interview posted by Politics and Prose, and I haven't like finished watching it yet, but I did hear them pronounce her name, so I do apologize. But this book came out recently on like the 21st of October, which is last year now. Happy New Year. To be honest, I did write this script like right after I finished this book. So I was still kind of like high off of my dopamine hit. I still feel like it does belong on the list. So once I was able to like actually sit down and read this for more than my 30 minutes at lunch, I really enjoyed the experience of getting to learn about this family. And I think that Jen has written a very like relatable and raw narrative of like generational trauma and the cycles of abuse that can come out of that, especially pertaining to familial relationships between parents and their children, and then even more specifically from mothers and their daughters. And her perspective also has more nuance with the cultural and traditional aspect. Her mother immigrated from China to America. I think it was right before the communists took over China, and so like there's also that nuance to it where it's like there's a tradition of patriarchy. This book is partly fictionalized because of the relationship that she has with her mother, which the book goes from starting at her mother's young age, living in Shanghai and her experiences there with her own mother and like how she was raised, into pursuing a PhD in America. And of course, that comes with the communists taking over Shanghai and her having to struggle in America after living a wealthy life, which was not without its hardships either because of the Japanese taking over Shanghai for a period of years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So she writes about the time of her mother being a young child into having children in America and herself being born, and then the narrative turns into her perception of her mother and their relationship and the cycle of rejection, particularly towards one of your female children. And like you can say that the beginning and like the from the point of view of her mother's life, like that is through her lens and how she views her mother, but I really do feel that she had an effort to not have a bias from what her mother experienced and went through, because I really do feel that it is a pretty open and honest way of depicting her life, like from the place of a daughter who understands her mother and why she is the way she is, and still wishes that their relationship could be different with more affection and closeness and understanding. Because, like, I really empathized with Jen's mother, but I could also recognize whenever she started becoming more like her own mother, who she herself estranged from for the same reason. When Jen talks about how her mother passes away and the regrets that she has about that, it really did, like, bring me to tears. Like, this one just touched me very personally. I'm waiting for a paperback version to come out before I snag one, which in the video of the interview that I mentioned earlier, they do have a paperback cover, but I have not been able to find one online. Depending on how it's doing, it should be any month now, and I am very excited to get my hands on it. This is very seriously one of the best books I have read in a while, and I mean, the last one before that was in October with The Secret History, which is also on this list, but that is one of the best books that I've ever read in a much different way. I would say that Bad Bad Girl by Gish Jen is my favorite in a more personal way, and The Secret History is more of an academic infatuation, which is ironic because of the contents of the book. So I have a video here that I ramble about The Secret History for like 25 minutes, and I am reviewing two other books in that video. So if you want a more in-depth like thought and analysis, go and watch that one. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on this round, but we're going to go over the talking points. And so this very large book is narrated by a unreliable, kind of pathetic young man named Robert, who is accepted on scholarship to this prestigious school called Hamden and attempts to become part of an elite, wealthy, and very exclusive group. There are several murders that they have to keep from police and the other students around them. And it's definitely more of a character study than like raising plot. I love the different ways that Tartt expresses her characters through dialogue, gestures, and even lighting. She has such a beautiful flow in her diction. I literally ran out of tab colors and honestly kind of hyper focused at the very like quarter end because this book just really made me want to annotate it. It is the perfect dark academia book, like from the imagery, the descriptions, the setting, the vividness of the imagery, and the senses that she invokes really is a huge part of the reading experience and honestly was one of my favorite aspects. And I haven't even broken onto the characters themselves, but I think I literally go over each character as in depth as I could. So if you have any inclination, check out that other video, or even better, just go and read it yourself and experience it. And so next up, we have The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling, which has this very interesting, is that not so cute? The pink lettering. This one honestly kind of floored me because it was nothing like I've really read before. And it was so fun and fast paced that I like could not stop reading it. It was kind of like a fever dream, which coincidentally is also in this list. There are three leading protagonists that we get to be in the minds of, and they are all sapphic and so full of yearning that is also not distracting to the plot, which I really like. It's really heavy on like the symbolism and imagery and has the magical elements of a folktale. Like there's magic creatures that you really have to watch and like be careful of like the language that you're using. One of the point of views, and I would argue one of the main views, is Phocine, who is a madwoman that created a miracle and basically cured their water through like alchemy because people were dying of like polluted water. So basically the main premise is that there is this like fortress that is being laid siege by an opposing army who's basically just trying to starve them out, and it's working because they are out of food, there's not been any rain, so there's no crops, and they are no longer just considering eating their dead. And it is alluded to that they already have eaten some of the people that have died. And so Phocine is being kept alive because she did this miracle, but she has been tasked with now creating food out of nothing. And so the reason that they are so adamant about not giving in to the awaiting army is because the king is residing at that fortress at this time. And so that brings in the next character, Sir Vaughn, who is a knight of the Kingsguard, and she mostly exists in the present. She does not go into like super huge details about her past, and she longs to fight the enemy to release all of them from this like standing around, nothing you can really do, waiting to starve to death type of situation. And she's a really interesting character to be in the mind of because of the sway that the visitors have over her. But the last character has history with Sir Vaughn, but she is currently working as a servant girl who's trying to escape and get out of that castle just as they're like going to start eating people, which they've already eaten, like, I think everything but the horses. Four uncanny saints appear with a feast created out of nothing, just like in the myths. And so let's just say that some people are more easily persuaded than others. Okay, and so getting to the actual Fever Dream by Samanta Schweblin, this is like the only short story that I have on the list, and that's because it's written in such a deliberate and concise way there's really not a lot that I'm going to be able to tell you about it because there's also so many ways that you can interpret it that I don't want to sway how you're going to be getting in there so that you can figure it out for yourself. And I would really, really recommend reading this in one sitting. I myself read it in like 3 30-minute sittings since I was reading it at lunch. But I really wish that I would have taken a chunk out of a day and just read it all at once because it gets so intense and it stays intense. Like, okay, so the only thing that I'm going to be telling you is you are in the point of view of a mom who is recounting the near past to a child who has a very mature and uncanny, urgent way of speaking. And it is again about the bonds that mothers have with their children. And I can't even say anything. It's so short. Please just go and read it and tell me what you thought is the meaning of everything. Which is very vague, but like, just tell me what you think in the comments. Okay, and so next we have Sunrise on the Reaping, which is a surprise to no one. I'm not even gonna lie, this was never not going to be on the list. I love the Hunger Games series. I've probably read the original trilogy like 4 or 5 times. It was the first book set that I was ever gifted. I think with my first bookshelf when I was like 10. But anyway, I am sure that you already know what this one is about. It is the second quarter quell where there is double the amount of tributes and is the games that Haymitch won. And so this one is very heavy in the themes of propaganda and how easy it is to manipulate visual footage to fit a narrative that you want. If you haven't read it and you think that you know what it's about because of what you read in Catching Fire, like, all I'm gonna say is like you can look at a cake, but you don't know what flavor it is before you try it. Please read this one. It is nothing like the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is not my favorite. And I had been skeptical whenever she came out with these books so long after the first trilogy. She really does not miss. Please read it. This book made me cry so hard that I woke my husband up from a dead sleep. Like, yes, you know what's going to happen, like, because there's only one victor until Peeta and Katniss. But, like, there's still, like, that hope that you have, and it just gets absolutely fucking crushed. And I will say that some of it is a little bit heavy handed. This one is still YA, but I'm not going to clock it for that. It's too good. Next, we have Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. We also have The Bluest Eye, which I read both of these last January. I liked Song of Solomon a lot more than The Bluest Eye. It's kind of like a treasure story, but he really ends up finding himself and his family and what that means. We follow a couple of characters in here, but mainly Milkman, who we see from early ages, like 4, to an adult bachelor. But we get snippets of point of views from other characters, like his aunt or his cousin, which are very powerful voices in here. In like the very barest summary, this is about him coming to understand his family's history and the importance of it and where he himself like rests in it. And Milkman is a very selfish character. A lot of this learning comes from him acting selfishly and then having realizations at a later time. But I think the reason that I like this one more than The Bluest Eye is because I did have a little hard time getting into The Bluest Eye just because of how it switches character point of view so quickly. It was hard to get settled because I was trying to figure out if I was the same person or not. The Bluest Eye is about a young girl named Pecola who essentially is just failed by pretty much everyone around her. we really only get her perspective like at 2 points in the novel from what I remember. And so we're watching her through people who don't really know her or who do personally know her. It's really heartbreaking to watch because all she really wants is just to be loved, and she comes to the conclusion because a huge theme of this book is like societal beauty standards, which is very white feature dominated. And so she comes to the conclusion that if she is able to, you know, have blue eyes and lighten her skin, that she can be loved by the people around her. And like, even though you get so many different point of views, like once you really get into it, it really tells you a lot about their characters, like what you do get to see. This book is especially targeted for bands because of that. It really gets into, the racism and the weaponization of beauty standards. There is a scene where Cola is being assaulted sexually by her father, and it is from her point of view. And it's brutal and very hard to read. It's not for shock value, it's not for no reason, and it's not even really that explicit. I believe the point of it is because her father's never brought to justice. It's to show the violence imposed on young black girls that goes unpunished and ruins lives. I do have a video on these two books. It's actually like when I first started my YouTube, and I was doing more like summary focused stuff, but I was not really liking that. So I have been thinking about rereading these to have like a deeper analysis now that I think more well versed in it. I've been, practicing on it for about a year now. And me and my sister were actually going to be reading Beloved in March. We're doing like an every other month book club together. So this month we're reading The Unworthy, and then in March we're going to be reading Beloved, and I'm really excited to get to that. And then I think I'm also reading another Toni Morrison this month for one of my other book clubs. And I'm really excited to return to her work since I haven't read anything since last January and be more active in my reading of them and internalizing and understanding them more than just memorization, if that makes sense. So, like, these two books were really me bringing myself into that because after college, I really just read kind of what I would consider more fun books, which sounds really pretentious, but like, they were books that I didn't really, not necessarily not think about because, like, I've listened to feminist Marxist podcasts about like A Court of Thorns and Roses. So like I'm not trying to say anything out there about genre fiction, but I will say that I was getting really bored of reading the same situations and characters over and over again. Like I still enjoy those books, but I've just been having a lot more joy with being more active and analytical with the books that I'm reading. And literary fiction, I've like not read the same book twice, which has been very nice and I've been having a lot of fun with since I'm not limiting myself with genre. I am really excited to see what all I'm reading this year. I'm not going to be doing any kind of like specific TBR book list like I did with the fall TBR because I literally did not read almost any of those books for fall. Everything just got pushed back because I kept finding different ones that I wanted to read. And I am wanting to kind of focus more on books that I already own and then maybe rereading some of them. Like, I've been really interested in rereading the Ranger's Apprentice series since I got the whole box set for $8 at a thrift for like a yard sale thrift. And I'm kind of thinking about doing kind of like a deep dive on those and then also Tiger's Curse, but I'm a little less inclined about the Tiger's Curse because in my big age, I know there's problems there and I know it's going to taint my reading experience, but it has to be done. I haven't read either of those series in like 6 years. And so the only other book that I'm like strictly planning on reading is Little Women because I have been wanting to read that book for a while now and that is going to be this year. Like right now I'm reading Restoration by Ava Barrera and then I'm also going to be reading Local Heavens and then I also have The Shards and then Rejection, which all four of them are on my Kindle, but I'm having a little bit of a small issue, which is like literally nothing. Okay, but listen, so I had to put my Kindle on airplane mode, and I only had like a couple of days left, and I was still reading the first one. So I put my Kindle on airplane mode, and then I have to read Restoration. I was trying to finish that before December ended, but Rogue came out on Marvel Rivals, and I have just been playing the fuck out of that game. So I want to finish Restoration first, since that was the book club book, but I'm having to read it on my phone so that I don't lose Local Heavens and have to wait for that one again. And then I also have The Shards and Rejection, which I'm going to have to put on my Kindle and put on airplane mode so I don't lose them. So we're getting in a loop and I can't keep doing that. But that's some insight to why I only finished 2 books last month. So like literally other than those, I'm not going to be making any specific book listings. I think it just puts way too much pressure on me and I'm just wanting to focus more on my own shelves. Now, I'm not going to like limit myself from buying new books, but I am really going to only try and buy books that I know that I already like to put on my shelf as like trophy books. And I hope that kind of incentivizes me to really be careful about what I'm buying, which I've not been. But obviously, I'm not going to cold turkey because then I'm going to binge buy something. So I'm not going to like not let myself buy books, but I'm just not going to be buying as many. Because I also have like my book club books, but literally, I'm not going to buy any of them. If I don't get them reserved at the library in time, that's going to be on me and I'm just going to miss out. But I think that's going to really help me slow down and appreciate the books that I already have and help me get caught up on them too. Which I'm at like 50-50 read, but I have gotten a lot of books in the last couple of months. So I'm just going to wait. The last thing is I don't think I want to really like rate books anymore. It was kind of like stressing me out a little bit and it was making me feel like I wasn't rating how I felt about things accurately because like I would read something and I'm like, wow, I don't like this as much as this other book, but I like it more than this book that I liked more than that other book. So who's a liar now? And I cannot keep doing that because, like, I usually have things that I like and dislike about everything that I read. I've only had a couple of books that I absolutely fucking hated. And yes, I will be making a video of that here in the near future. There's all my favorite reads for 2025 and my goals for 26. Let me know what your reading goals are in the comments. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I've talked about today, what you thought of them. As always, thank you for being here. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one.